I used to get injured all the time from running. Then I started strength training and guess what? I still got injured a lot. Why? Because just loading up heavy squats, bench press, and deadlifts isn't exactly the secret sauce for runners. It actually took me years of trial and error, training for races, working with coaches, and learning through a decade of experience as a trainer to figure out what actually works. Now I want to save you a lot of time and frustration and teach you what I figured out. In this video, we'll cover the 5 biggest mistakes that runners make with strength training and how to avoid them, the key principles of strength training that actually improve running performance, and my top 5 exercises that runners should include into their training. So if you're tired of injuries and want to become a stronger, faster runner, you're in the right place. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's start off with 5 of the biggest mistakes that runners make with strength training. And mistake number 1 is just trying to activate certain muscles. It's common that I hear runners say, I need to activate my glutes, or I need to activate my core. I haven't really found this to be a particularly helpful strategy, and I'll explain why. We are already activating our muscles thousands of times each day. Now you might be thinking, well, I overuse my back extensors and I don't activate my glutes. And there might be some truth to that. Runners often lack glute strength and their back extensors or other muscles need to compensate. If that's the case, here's how you could approach it. Approach number 1 would be trying to activate your glutes by thinking about squeezing them or even doing isolation exercises like clamshells or side steps where you can feel your glutes activating. And while this can occasionally be helpful, I've seen a lot of runners do these activation drills for weeks or months or years with no change to their performance or their symptoms. So let's look at a similar but a different approach. This involves strengthening a specific position, and this can be done by activating and strengthening your glute while keeping your foot on the ground, specifically replicating the mid stance of running. An example of that would be this mini band exercise, which looks pretty similar to a mini band side step, but is actually quite different. By keeping the foot in contact with the ground, we're making this a closed chain exercise. That's important because it allows us to strengthen the hip while stacked directly over the foot in the same way that we would experience during running. What this really comes down to is specificity, and just activating the muscles alone doesn't necessarily strengthen the position and strengthen the hips to change your running mechanics. And although it seems like a small change to go from a clamshell or a side step to an exercise like this, it really can make a big difference in actually seeing carryover to running mechanics. And again, that's because we need the hip to be really strong in that mid stance with a slight knee bend. And we can strengthen this position even more by moving beyond the mini band and actually adding weight with a barbell. For example, doing a heavy small step up. I like this small step up to knee raise because it's highly specific to the position that you need to strengthen for running. Yes, you can also do a full step up or a full lunge, but you can't go nearly as heavy. So I really do like this small heavy step up to specifically build strength in that lateral hip through the joint angles of mid stance, which really tends to help runners. And this ties right into the second mistake, which we've already been talking about, not including running specific strength training. This small step up to knee raise and the mini band drill are 2 great run specific drills, and we'll cover even more later on in the video. Okay, but let's cover a few more mistakes. Mistake number 3 is skipping strength training altogether. And this one really is crazy to me because such a small amount of strength training goes a long way. In fact, even for professional runners that I've trained, I only program about 30 minutes of strength work 1 to 3 times per week. So while there are hundreds or thousands of exercises that you could do, you really only need a few high quality drills performed consistently. Rather than skipping strength training altogether, cut your routine down to just a few strength movements that really give you the most benefit. By the end of the video, I hope you have a few ideas for what those movements might be. Okay, mistake number 4 is too much volume with not enough intensity. I often consult with runners who have a full list of corrective exercises that they've been doing for months or years. And they're just sort of going through the motions with a bunch of drills that may or may not have helped at some time in the past. But I like to say, if a drill isn't producing a measurable improvement in range of motion, strength, or stability, then go ahead and cut it out. This leaves you room to focus on a few high-quality drills that are truly challenging and actually address your weak points. In a lot of cases, less is more. Okay, and then finally mistake number 5 is one that I see almost all runners making, and that is forgetting to train plyometrics. Plyometrics involves storing and releasing energy in the tendons, which is essential for smooth, efficient running. And the truth is, just a few quality repetitions of plyometrics have a ton of benefits, including improving bone mineral density, improving posture and running mechanics, reducing injury risk when done right, and more. And while box jumps might be the first thing that comes to mind, I actually think there are a few better choices for runners. Here's a few. One would be a simple pogo hop. So instead of jumping up to a box and then stepping down, with a pogo hop, you're actually repeatedly practicing that energy storage and release. Another slightly more advanced version of this would be a low to high pogo hop. This is a progression to include some higher level jumps without quite the intensity of something like a full hurdle hop. I also really like bounding for runners, which is essentially exaggerated running mechanics. And this can be done just 20 yards down the street or down a field. And remember, like all drills, you can choose to do this with low intensity, moderate intensity, or maximal intensity, depending on your level of experience. And I think that can be really helpful, especially if you're just starting out with plyometrics, because you don't need to go as fast or as high as possible right away. You can build up over time. So to summarize, a simple plyometric routine for a runner could involve 3 sets of 10 yards of backwards pogo hops, 3 sets of 20 yards of moderate intensity bounding, and then 2 sets of 10 lateral bounds or skater hops. And if you're learning something, do me a quick favor and hit the like button, as that really helps out our channel a lot. All right, I know this is a lot of information already, but remember, this is the ultimate guide to strength training for runners, so there's still a lot more to cover. So let's move on to part 2, key principles of strength training for runners. And if you can get these 2 principles right, you're going to be on track to effective strength training. Principle number 1 is simple: make the exercise challenging. This could mean using enough weight for a step up to be really challenging for the last few repetitions of your set. It could also mean choosing a band that has adequate tension for the exercise that you're doing. Or it could mean holding an isometric bridge for long enough that you're starting to shake and nearly compromise your position toward the end of the set. Training should feel challenging, especially in the last few repetitions of a set. And going back to what we said earlier, you're better off doing just a handful of really high quality drills instead of an entire list of drills that you're kind of just going through the motions. All right, and then principle number 2 is just progress sensibly. You wouldn't want to increase your running mileage by more than 10% in 1 week. Similarly, you don't want to go from 0 to 100 with strength or plyometric training. Find a starting point that you're comfortable with, and then make each week a little bit more challenging than the week prior. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to my favorite part, and the part you're probably waiting for, my top 5 exercises for runners. And these are the exact exercises that I've used to help my clients achieve great results, including finishing a sub 9-hour Ironman, which is very fast if you didn't know, racing the Leadville 100, or just performing well on their local 5K or half marathons. Okay, so exercise number 1 is the calf raise. The calf is arguably the most important muscle group for running, and it's a common area of injury. Performing a high quality calf raise can make a big difference for health and performance. I've learned this setup from my mentor Chris Johnson, and it is by far the most effective way to train the calf. You'll want to place one foot on a box and the opposite foot on the ground. This helps keep your pelvis in a good position in slight hip extension, putting a slight stretch through the calf. From here, stand tall with the barbell on the traps and focus on pushing through the base of the big toe. While I do like seeing full range of motion here, if the load is challenging enough, that range of motion will be difficult to achieve on the last rep of the set. I often target 3 sets of 8 repetitions with this exercise. Exercise number 2 is the long lever bridge. And this is a great way to train the hamstrings. Ensure that the knees, hips, and shoulders are in a straight line during this exercise. The way that you're going to do this is very similar to a glute bridge, but just walking the heels out farther to beyond a 90-degree angle at the knee. The farther you walk them out, the more this is going to challenge the hamstrings specifically. I like to program 3 sets of 30-second holds on both legs, and then once you're ready to progress that, I like to go to a single leg hold, 10 seconds on each leg, alternating back and forth for a total of 60 seconds. All right, and then moving on to exercise number 3, we have a plank with a push-up every 10 seconds. If you're looking for a simple but really effective way to build core strength and some upper body strength, do just 1 set for as long as you can. My high-level endurance athletes can often do 3 minutes or longer with this exercise. Just start a stopwatch, hold a high plank position, and then every 10 seconds, knock out 1 push-up. And then pro tip for triathletes who want to get some lat work, this can work for pull-ups as well. All right, and then moving on to exercise number 4, we have the step up to knee raise. And this is a great exercise to build lateral hip strength and stability on one leg. Also, you can do this with dumbbells, but I really like to see runners working up to doing this with a barbell and with their full body weight on the bar. This step doesn't need to be super high here, just around 6 inches is a good target. And what you're gonna do here is just slowly step up and then raise one knee, hold for about 3 seconds, and then step back down. I often see that a few quality repetitions of this exercise can get runners farther than 1,000 clamshells. So this is a really good, challenging, time-efficient way to build hip strength and stability. And then lastly, exercise number 5 is a squat jump. Really though, any of the plyometrics that we mentioned before, pogo jumps, bounding, squat jumps, lateral bounds, any of those could have worked here. I just wanted to make sure we included one plyometric drill because honestly, I think it rounds out the 5 drills really well. I could really see a high school cross country team, an intermediate, or even an advanced runner or triathlete incorporating these 5 high quality drills consistently 2 times a week and seeing big improvements in performance and how their body feels from running. Whichever plyometric drill that you choose, just start with 3 sets of 10 and then build up from there. So what I really hope that you got out of this video was that strength training doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need dozens of corrective drills. You don't need all the machines in the gym or to train like a bodybuilder 4 times a week. Just a few high quality strength movements that carry over to running mechanics done consistently goes a long way. I've seen these exercises help myself, my older runner clients, my professional running clients, youth athletes, and I think they really will help you as well. If you're looking for a program with all of your running and strength training progressions laid out right in the training calendar for you, then we actually have 2 different options for you. Number 1 would be our hybrid athlete program, and this is the exact program that I train with to hit endurance PRs while building strength and athleticism. There's a free 7-day trial in the description below. And then option number 2 is our new 12-week half marathon training program. Not only does this include the runs that you need to be doing each week to build up to a half marathon in the 12th week, but it also includes strength training. So you'll see all of the exercises from this video and a few more, and you'll see the progressions laid out week to week, as well as a taper before the race. Once you sign up, you'll just add it to your calendar so that way you line up that 12th week with your race day, and then boom, you have all your workouts for the next 3 months and you can log it right there in the Train Heroic app. I really encourage you guys to make the leap and get on a program, even if you're not gonna do a race, because really consistency and progression is the key for reaching your goals. And you can use the code RUNPR2025 for 20% off either program. Feel free to drop any questions that you have in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.